to introduce our lecturers today. Today's lecture is one of several free presentations under the theme Language Programs Around Alaska, School-Based Indigenous Language Revitalization Model. And today's lecture is presented through Sealaska Heritage's Indigenizing Education for Alaska program. Indigenizing Education for Alaska, or IEA, supports Indigenous education through internships for future educators, a community of practice for current educators, and college scholarships for students working towards becoming teachers in Alaska. The IEA scholarship provides tuition and housing assistance for UAS students. You can learn more by contacting IEA at Sealaska.com. Today's lecture is presented by Lori Gáchán son, Lingít, and Jiyís, George Hawley, and it is titled Dzi.áx. It echoes for us. Music through Tlingit in elementary schools in Áak'w. They will focus on methods used to teach the Tlingit language and culture through music at Tsimshian, Glacier Valley, and Ḳwáan elementary schools. If you're joining us in person, please remember to silence your cell phones, and there will be an opportunity for questions at the end of the lecture. Thank you and welcome.
Yeah. Now.
Jiyís. We would like to open with a song that George wrote.
Okay.
And, with Kingesti in mind, did you want to share?
Do you want to read that?
Sure. If you plant the seed of the language within you, it will come up. Let this be a springtime of your language.
Oh, how beautiful. I'll sing for you what I think of as like a background blessing for our program. And it is a song that the kids, they hold their poses, they work their arms as they're getting ready to play their gikja, their violin. And this is one of the first songs that they contemplate as they begin learning the violin. I wanted to, as I sing it, for you to take a look upon an illustration of this song by Corinne James Canuck. So this is a little bit different take on what you would think of as words. You know, this is like, gives you the contemplation. And she listened to the song, and she did her own rendition. None of these things are necessarily mentioned in there. And it is about our language. And the tongue in this face is a fireweed shoot. It's a maroon fireweed shoot. And she says that it's like what's coming back after a long devastation. The eyeball is a salmon head trout eyeball, and she said it's like our eyes are on our ancestors. So this is Corinne's illustration of this song. It goes, Chatlech yekokwasti Hayu chatangi Dehatut has Awati hasduiti ke nawat hasduiti ke nawat chatlech kugagasti. Let it exist forever. Hayu chatangi. Our language, our thoughts, our way of life. Dehatut Hus, Awati, our ancestors placed it within us. Hus duiti ke nawad. It is within their remains that we grow. Hus duiti ke nawad. Ha, hey. What you have here on this stage is the song, the words of the song that are laid out here, and also self-portraits of some of our children. And there are also like cedar bark rendition roses that I just feel like emphasizes that this program, this effort within our community is really taking part in a bigger story of healing. And it reminds us that we need to keep our ancestors, the words of our ancestors close to us, the example of those that came before, and a clear vision in our hearts of what could be for our children.
Jiyís for being here today and to see so many people who are holding up this program. Sealaska Heritage Institute for one, Sealaska Corporation, and the Lingít that I see here that have been continue to be a part of our program. We opened with Kingasti because I took through the cultural lens course here at SHI, and it was 60 hours of sustainable pedagogy, and Kingasti was the one who opened up our first session. And he started to talk about the language, but you could feel the language. He used rhythm and song and imagery and story. And as a music teacher at City Tsimshian, I thought, wow, the language is tonal, and music is so much a part of the culture. Why not make the music classroom and music be a vehicle for teaching the language in our schools? And Kingasti was the first to say that the words are the embodiment of so much more, and please don't forget that. So as we are doing this, working wutin, holding each other up, George Hawley is bringing that spirit to us. Sure. Oh, sorry. And these tribal values are at the heart of our program. Hold each other up, the Ḳwáan is one that this program wouldn't happen without it. The idea of the roots intertwining and holding each other up, that we can't do this work by ourselves. And when we work in isolation, it's hard work, and we need to as Juneau says, have our paddles going in the same direction in our canoe. And so this is just some of the many organizations that are holding us up to make sure that our students are not only learning the language through music, but are learning the culture, and the tribal values are all part of it. And music is a way to carry it, because we know that if that was my first sort of aha moment, because I took French in 8th grade, and the only thing I remember is allo, allo, qui est à la parade, ici, Laurie, attendez s'il vous plaît. And I went, if that's something I can remember more than 40 years ago, why not use the music? And because the culture is tonal, that we can do that to help our kids hear the language and start in the music room as the heart, but to spread into the classrooms, spread into our communities, and to our homes. So I just want to say Jiyís to all of the supporters and allies and language warriors that are part of this program and students. I would like to open with just a 3-minute video to kind of capture what we're doing here.
This particular program is Ḥwáan, it is within us, and it is this particular program is Ḥwáan, it is within us, and it is a kinder and first grade program that works in schools currently at 2 elementary schools, Ḳwáan Elementary and Tsimshian Glacier Valley. 90 minutes a week of social intervention where they're getting social emotional learning and language and physical coordination and academic skills to help them be successful in life and reach that full potential that is within each and every one of them.
Our goals for the students is that they will learn Lingít, doing something real in context, not learning out of a book, but learning with their ears, their eyes, their mind. They happen to be learning to read music. They're learning to play a complicated instrument like a Ṟ'ja, that's the name of the violin. And they're learning how to play, but they're learning Lingít with their ears and their eyes instead of out of a book and studying. So, and that's a natural way to learn language. Even after one lesson, learning to play a violin, the language that goes along with it goes right straight into their brain. It's not filtered out. It's just like, it's right there with only 1 or 2 repetitions. So they're not trying to learn language, they're trying to do the physical activity of violin playing. And it's like not realizing that you're learning something else.
The first aha moment I had when we first started this last year was how much of the language is embedded in the culture. I mean, you learn so much about the culture and the history and that perspective when you learn the language. And I think incorporating it to music, showing that it is possible to find ways to teach different subjects, unique subjects, specific subject matter in Tlingit, in other Alaska Native languages. It takes some teamwork, partnership, and flexibility, but it is possible, and we don't have to teach even something like the violin with that Western framework, with Western alphabet. I mean, there's so many different ways if we're just willing to think outside the box and connect with those people willing to take on the work. So these K1-2 students at Tsimshian Glacier Valley, they're learning the violin, they're learning the language, they're learning about the culture of this place they live in, all at the same time in a really magical way.
Hey, so we use this pebble and we talk about it with our kids, that they are a pebble. And that pebble ripples through the waters and makes an impact throughout the school, throughout their homes, throughout the community. And it's the same way in this program. I've taken, as Jiyís, Rose Willard was the first to help me with this project through Cultural Lens. And when I asked her about how to share how this all started, she said, you know, we gain strength by taking one step at a time into the water. And that's exactly how you came to this. I reached out to her and we built an online Áak'w to share some of the music, oral language, and then that was during COVID. And then when we came to this project with Carnegie Hall to write some music that would talk about resilience, George Holly came on. Mae Brown, who's here with us today, she zoomed in to help us with the language, along with Gunak Fred White, Juneau, Lance Twitchell, Kushiek, Robbie Littlefield. There's so many people who've come to hold us up to make sure that this is done well, this is done respectfully and appropriately, and that instead of trying to fit indigenizing curriculum into a Western construct, we're doing it the opposite. If it doesn't, we start with an indigenous perspective, and we'll see if we can fit a Eurocentric construct, and if it doesn't fit, we move on to something that does. So George Hawley is a big piece of that. And so what has happened starting at Tsimshian, because this image is supposed to represent that pebble, because we have the music teacher in the room, a jam violin teacher in the room, a classroom teacher, a language teacher, all at the same time. It's not being taught in isolation. I have a good Ḥwáan, a friend who is a language warrior, who said it's really hard to teach in the schools. And we were asking, why can't we keep our language teachers in the school district? And they said, it's really hard when you're stretched between two schools. You have 30 minutes to work with one class, and you're here passionately trying to revitalize the language, and you already know that that's not going to work. And you don't have time to work on your own language because you're full-time. So it's very defeating. And so the pilot that we've come up with, George Hawley in this position, thanks to Sealaska Corporation and Heritage Institute, is that we've built that in. One of the days is just to connect with other language scholars, other programs, work on the language. And then this position is never in isolation. You are always working with someone else so that, one, we learn the language along with the teacher, along with the kids. Because if it's a Tlingit language teacher and only the students, that's as far as it will ever go. And so George, we call him the Dzi.áx, the bridge, because he is in the classrooms, in the morning meeting, he's in the music room, he is connecting with other organizations. And so this is a pilot. We know that the Tlingit Culture Language Literacy Program is the gold standard. They have a language teacher in every classroom and an elder. But many people are saying, what about our nieces and nephews and children who cannot be in that program? What do we do? And so this is a pilot to say, can we have a cultural specialist and a Tlingit language teacher at every elementary school, not just for our students that are Alaska Native, but also all students, because we live on Tlingit Ani, and we should learn the language and the culture and the people. So because of that connection and collaboration, it's spreading. It's spreading not only just at Tsimshian, but it started at Ḳwáan, and we hope to just continue sharing out with our project and our online resources.
I guess I'm on the thing, right? Okay.
And for people.
Oh, okay. All right, well, Jiyís se'ajre dig hit on etlan Deloitte shed huts and nisso Soldatna huts and nisso Zontekahini visto. My name is Jiyís. I'm dig hit on Athabaskan, and I'm from the Kenai Peninsula, where I grew up in Soldatna. And I spent about 17 years here, starting in '93, before I moved home for about 12. And things have opened up so that I might be able to come back into the community. And this time around, I'm thinking about the possibilities in our state and in North America. I'm looking around, I'm wondering about the possibilities of any of our languages coming back. And not only back within our, our native families and communities, but in the whole of the community, so that there is, that there is regard, local regard, love, support, and an integration that we haven't fully seen. And yet I feel as though that there are many signs of progress. especially in this region and area, and that's why I personally feel called to come here and to work tirelessly alongside this friend here and so many others, because I feel like progress in society can occur, and that the individuals, the community, the institutions, the families, I feel are uniquely ready in this community to be able to remove their own obstacles and to be able to find agreement in order to make it happen. And so I feel like as we labor along, that our role, within this larger context of healing is to see how progress can occur in society.
I feel like we need to break out in song at this point.
Yeah.
One of the things, I'm here as an ally. I am an ally supporting all of our language warriors, the Alaskan Native community, and I'm speaking from a non-Indigenous. I've been adopted into the Ḳwáan clan by Ray Wilson, and it was because he saw all kids having access to music and said that, our children, they are musical in the womb. They hear the heartbeat. They all need to have music in their life, and that to adopt me was to help to recognize the work that we're doing. But I have to say, I've been in Juneau for 26 years, and I've only come to this, and I speak because there's a fear initially that you are going to do it wrong, that you're going to be disrespectful. And there's been so many folks, Muriel Olson shared, if you're going to go to another country, out of respect, you learn the language and the culture. And so we are living on Tlingit, and you should be learning the language. It does not matter what your background is. And I went, okay, that's the next step. Juneau, Lance Twitchell, everyone needs to be learning the language. And I think some teachers will go, well, how can I can't speak about oral narratives or music, because that is a taboo, and that is right. But there are ways to change the way you teach, to represent the way in which oral cultures take in the world and how it's processed. And all of these water drops are the ways in which our children, in fact all children, benefit from learning through these ways. So much of our program is using music, chant, image, ritual, dialogic talk. And one way in which we've done that is when we were talking about the Gikja, I brought a real one and our paper Gikja, we were thinking, how can we make putting this into position feel place-based, right? And to incorporate the tribal values. So we count, Tleg, Deg, Nuts, Dakun, Cajun. And then we talked about that they're part of a forest, right? That they sway, they're grounded, and yet their roots hold each other up. So we incorporate those tribal values. You are in the Askatuk, you're holding each other up. Dzi.áak's, one of the Tlingit pillars of education. And then we say, you're looking up, what do you see? And that's when they put their Gikja up. Ah, it's a chalk. Where is it? It's coming down. And it's taking care of 2 eggs. So that when they have to make sure their Gikja stays on their shoulder, right? So that it doesn't drop. Are you going to respect all things and make sure that you don't squish those eggs, but just protect them? So now when they're holding this, they're thinking of respecting all things, protecting those eggs. And then this is the channel. So we look at the Gastineau channel. And then when what do we hear? Dzi.áak's. Oh, it's a Dza. So we take our yak and we go Dzi.áak's, and we go out to sea. And there's Dza. And we can't stick him, can't have his head go out too far because the predators might find him, right? When you see a tsa, a seal, only their eyes and their nose are sticking out. So that helps them keep their goosh right in the right spot. And, oh, that's the live Ḳwáan, the salmon. That's why you see a tsa right there. There's probably salmon underneath, but we don't want it to be a dead one, right? We want it to be a live Ḳwáan that seal can take. So they're thinking of all these things, not only with their head, but their heart. And so built in within all of this, then these are the diving birds, right? You will listen. One of the Tlingit education pillars, you will listen. And so these are diving birds. We have to make sure they can catch the fish. And that means that they're pushing far enough down on the strings, to make sure they're getting them. So all of this story is built in to make sure that they are seeing themselves here and also embracing those values. Instead of down bow and up bow, we say the tide is going out, the tide is coming in, the tide is going out, the tide is coming in. And it helps them play because they're thinking of water and just being really relaxed and smooth. And so this is one way we use image, repetitious chant, and then come to a point here where we wanted to show you a video that Carnegie Hall is one of our partners, and they commissioned, that's how George came to us. He was commissioned to write a song about resilience. And George, did you want to share the story when you came over and asked Ray Wilson?
Yeah, sure. So it just so happens that I know Ray and that we've been dance partners for years and years. And so it was really lovely that, that Lori had been brought into Ray's family. And in speaking with Ray about, you know, our children, we started talking about the tide, and you know, Ray said, you know, every time the tide changes, there's a healing. And I so appreciated, you know, his words. And so I was thinking about the different tides as being a whole cycle. Because you could say, the tide's coming in, and that's the whole story. That would be the Western way. It came in! You know, but there is the song about the tide coming in. It's saying it's almost turning. It begins, you aren't going to see it here, but it begins in absolute stillness at low ebb tide. You know, it's just like, you don't know which way it's going to go. You don't know if it's ever going to come back in. That's the state of our languages. And to be able to perceive the very beginnings of a movement coming back, that's what this song is about. And being able to ride that, and it becomes just from a trickle all the way to a whole coming in canoe song. The second song that you're going to hear then is that Ray really helped me to be able to see is this within the context of this large healing story. And that is when the tide goes out, that is the time to let go of fears, let go of doubts, let go of preconceptions, to be able to discover if we have it within us to make it happen. Do we have it as individuals, as members of our institutions? Do we have it as like part of our community? Can we see it? Do we have it? And so the tide goes out, and we go into the exposed, you know, sea, and contemplate and find our own treasures in order to be able to say Yekwiti, ha tu yeyati. It is within us. And then to be able to then prepare our minds to really make it happen. So this is that video.
You'll hear the students at the end. They picked up shells or maracas and pretended to pick up a shell from the
Áak'w.
beach and would hear what Tlingit word are they going to be the caretakers
That's right. This is halfway through the video, actually. It's available on YouTube. Kusachan Katulla'an Ḳwáan itech tu Juneau Kusachan Tlingit. Oh man. Goodness, geez. You see that the last scene there is right out here in the plaza prior to the raising of the kutia out there. So I love that little detail. Oh, I tell you what, to see these kids and there's all these little stories that unfold throughout the day. How lucky I feel as an educator, as an artist, to be working with such concentration, at this period of my life. I'm really so grateful for it. As an Athabascan man, I had to get permission. I had to talk with my own family at home about leaving for a while and coming down and spending time here on Tlingit. And I share that because it's a big story at home, and we have one speaker. But all those things, that I'm learning here, God willing, will be able to be seen elsewhere.
That video, I hope, captures all of the folks who support this program. And one of the things, Juneau Alaska Music Matters started as a school readiness program because it tunes your ear for language, good self-control, phonemic awareness, and we thought, gosh, this is where music can be the core, because we were noticing that most of the musicians pick up the language fairly well because our ears are tuned for sound, like really distinct sounds. And so we're thinking this could be a model starting in the music room with allies like our jam teaching artists who are learning the language. I think about 90% of our jam staff has taken at least a one-credit Tlingit course. I can't say enough about taking the Indigenous Language Teaching Certificate program. I graduated last May, and I think all teachers in our school district should be taking at least a Tlingit language course, if not more of those courses that are offered through the university. And so it makes sense. It was one of Juneau's classes where he said, I don't understand why we can't break into the school district. If it's happening in Hawaii, there are inspiration, and what seems to be the argument is that there's no vocabulary in Tlingit for chemistry and geometry. And he said, well, we haven't been at the table for 100 years. You come up with Unfriend for Facebook, so why can't we begin to write our language and fill out these domains? And that's when I was like, music is specialized content, and our 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds, all of them at jam schools get at least 90 minutes of music, if not more. And that's how this began, was through that class and realizing we could start teaching our violin Dzi.áx through Tlingit. And so here is just some examples. I'm looking at our time, and again, this is where we talked with Juneau and Nay and Jiyís, George, Cultivating, Juneau, Ethel Mackinnon was all a part of our discussions, and we were brought up, there's no B or F in the Tlingit language, and the musical alphabet is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so what are we going to do? And this is where there is a program in Finland that uses colors to teach the notes. And so gray is always an E, yellow is always an A, and so we decided to use colors. And what a beautiful way to represent notes through metaphors, because in the Tlingit language, color is represented through metaphors found in our place. So Tlingit is baby seagull, but Tlingit means gray. Ḳwáan is little bird for A. Ţsquat is like hemlock bark, and Ḳwáan is like charcoal. And those are the 4 strings on the Dzi.áx. And this is what our Dzi.áx look like. So we have the shapes and the colors, and we found out that it actually makes it easier for kids to learn music because they're looking right at the notes. And of course, we used to have a song like each and every ant, digging in the dirt, going underground for the 4 EAD, and we're like, George, Juneau, could we come up with some Tlingit language to change this song to help our kids learn the open strings? And I don't know if you would like for me to play it or if you'd like to sing it.
I'll just go ahead and sing it. All right. So, yeah, neat that Juneau wrote this poem, and each of the lines begins with a word in Tlingit that sounds similar to the names of those those strings. And it says, well, you can read it. Each da away, 8, hinikach, dis out le dis ha G yengati Lachet. There you have it.
And isn't this a much beautiful message to be thinking of rather than ants digging in the dirt? So again, this is just some of the examples we wanted to share in how it's not just the language that we're teaching. The language represents so much more. And then this is just an example of how the kids are learning to read using the figure notes. The arrows, for those of you who are into music, are sharps. Like if they're going to the right, they're sharp, and if they go to the left, they're flat. And then the fingering below. And then we're able to color code the words. So as the students are learning how to sing, they can see the colors already that are going to be on their And so we just wanted to share that part of this program, we know that music, as you can tell from my French song from 8th grade, stays with you, even though the kids are in our classroom for 90 minutes, if not longer. The music runs through your head, and I think we all know, we're wired for music, we're hearing it, and it's running through our heads all the time, and so it is also making its way into the homes of our kids, and our families are sharing how much they are hearing the language being taught by their children, and as you can read from this quote, grandchildren. Dory, one of our students, Christian, her mom, gave us permission to share what has been on Facebook. I'm a Facebook friend, and I was just warmed by the fact that it is working. You know, our kids are singing songs at home, and these are just some of her Facebook posts, sharing her excitement of her little one, sharing what she's speaking and singing in Tlingit. And what really really touched my heart is they went back to Áak'w to see their grandparents, and she danced and sang, and so we talked about that pebble just rippled all the way to Áak'w, and for her to share the language with her grandparents. And she's also drumming one of George's songs.
You play?
Do a little bit?
Yeah.
We'll play a little bit of Dory. This is Haida Ijin. Give me your hand and hold each other up. Oops. She even does kucha at the end to finish up. One of the things that we're focusing on, and we go back and forth because I have to keep saying this is not a Tlingit song, this is not a Tlingit song, because one of the ways that I'm memorizing the music or the language is having the melody match the speech. So this is one example of how we're learning the feelings, right? So, it's on our website, but I'll listen to Kushek or Ne, Juneau, speak it, and then I will hear what the high tone is and try to match it as a melody. So, Áak'w, sigu. And the way we're singing it is Áak'w, sigu. So that in my head I know where the high tones are, I know which ones are the long sounds, the short sounds, when do they stop, that's a rest, right? Tlak, chet, wune, and they echo. Tlak, chet, wune, chet, yake. Áak'w, waduaga.
Áak'w, waduaga.
Áak'w, tlitsin.
Áak'w, tlitsin.
Áak'w, atwudaqin.
Áak'w, atwudaqin.
And so we have a whole song that goes through all of them, and then the kids remember them. They're singing them, and then the hope is that we're not going to be singing Tlingit all day, but that you can then remove the melody and go Áak'w, sigu, so that it's helping to help you both the fluency of it as well as the tones and the length of the vowels. And we're using sign language so that we don't use English so much. This is one of the start, just to show again the collaboration. Nate Brown is in the audience today. Jiyís for all of your leadership, your support. And this was during COVID, and we still zoom in. Kushek Robbie Littlefield zooms in all week from Sitka to make sure that we are pronouncing. She'll write down the words that we're using the most in English, and we translate them with Juneau every week to make sure we're continually adding more language. And so I'll go to the end a little bit where the kids were asking her some questions. Cool. So one of the students, we were doing gusugushki and asking how do they feel, and so the kids were going, how do you say grumpy? And so we were asking Nay, how do you say grumpy?
So when we tell people that these words are really kind of Spanish, that we're just kind of grumpy, so we're ooh together, you see your ooh right here, ooh, and you say Ḳwáan.
Yeah.
And that's important. The kids are seeing all of us learning and learning from each other. Let's see, this last one is an example of how, and then we'll stop and maybe end with a song. This one is an example of the feeling part of what we're trying to accomplish, not just the language, but the values.
Things that we know are within us. Yes? Things that we know are within us. Yes?
Something that we know within us is the spirit of our language.
Is what?
Is the spirit of our language.
The spirit of our language. Yak cheese. Yeah.
Something that we know is in us is our Tlingit heart.
That's right. Yahweh, Yahweh, Tlingit teich. It's a heart. That's right in here. Yeah.
What is within us is the music in our body and our Tlingit body.
That's right. You know, our Tlingit body. You know, our body of words, our body of thoughts, our way of life. Yes.
Maybe remember our Tlingit words and write them down. The teacher will help them to learn them Tlingit words.
Oh. You know, one thing that my Dzi.áx taught me about remembering something is she said, hold your hands right here. I said, you want me to hold my hands right here? She said, yeah. Can you friends do that too? Can you hold your one hand and one hand over the other? And you look down in there and you think, is it within me? Do I have it within me?
Yeah.
You know what? This friend asks himself very often, do I have it within me? And according to my elders, I do. And I have to sometimes remind myself of that. And you all get a chance to be able to be reminded that it is within us. Can you look down right here? Can you blow right into that space? And my grandmother would say, don't let my words fall from you. Hold them there. Hold them there. It's precious. You are precious. You know, it's so amazing to have these kinds of conversations with the kids. I've learned that speaking, supporting, loving, teaching our languages are giving our children the possibility, once again, of being a human being. Our language is giving them that title back to them. Dzi.áak's, you are a human being. And I'm seeing them be real feelers, thinkers, and to be able to make all different kinds of connections. And I'm so excited to see what society is going to grow up to be.
We're going to end with this song. We think, one, the elders' voices, Juneau's work. This was set in Washington, D.C., I believe, one of those. And George wrote, over the water, we're building a bridge, hands working together. So,
Yeah, you want to try it out?
yeah, we should probably come to an end. So this will be our if you want to join in, even with the motion, okay?
Okay, we're doing both
It's
of
a
them, right?
quadlibet or a partner song or a mashup, however you want to call it. So
Right. Okay, here we go.
start.
We'll just do that in unison a couple times, and then all right. Right, here we go. Hin kanach zed atut yech hey Áak'w Jiyís. Hin kanach zed atutliech heya wush je inchas kusahanka tutla ankwa itech tuye na uchas kusahanka tutla ankwa itech tuye na uchas kusahanka kusahankwa itech tuye na uchas kusahanka tutla ankwa itech tuye na Good as cheese.
Jiyís. We have some time for some questions. If there's any questions in the audience. If there's anyone online. I haven't seen any come through online, but
I just want to say thank you for teaching my son the language of the land, and he has Tlingit in his heart. We speak Shm'algyax at home, and he came home to translate Tlingit to Shm'algyax for me, so it's Jiyís.
Wow, that's cheese, honey.
Ms. Jiyís, George, and Lori, before I ask my question, I just wanted to share for our viewers just a reminder, thinking of George's comments about how he's from the interior, from Athabaskan, and you know, our people, the Tlingit and Athabascans, have a long history, going back hundreds of years. You know, we traded. We share songs, we share artwork, so it is fitting that you know, you are here with us and working with our children. You know, goodness Jiyís for the lecture today to help us see, you know, like music more than notes on a page, that jam is not just music, and the work that you're doing with our you know, with our children, with our community, is intentional and it's well thought out, and just very excited to learn and to see this. So, getting to my question, I was just wondering, did the students have a chance to interact with any of the artists that were here for Áak'w last week? And then the second part of my question is, do you see any up-and-coming young musicians or artists within your classes?
We definitely promoted it and saw some friends there. We showed videos. One in particular was Nikolai from...
Nikolai.
Yes, up in at Nelson High School. I don't want to... Thank you, Jiyís, and to show how music helped him. Started drumming, and I guess at 16 years old, the drum teacher had left, and he took it up and began, and that's how he started his career, and just showed how much music is a big part of it. But no, we're hoping next time maybe there could be a partnership to have some of the Áak'w performers come out to the schools, because it is inspiring to attend the concert, But for many of our kids, they couldn't make it, but it'd be wonderful. We would love to see that partnership, to have some of the artists while they're here to come out to the schools and inspire our kids. Please, Jiyís.
Mr. Devon here was a dancer in our after-school jam program, and he danced with his staff beautifully. I see the potential in each one of those kids to become the musicians that we see them as. You know, I see their capacity growing from year to year, and the earlier it is, the less words it seems to take. Like some of the 5th graders already, like if you go, "Whee!" They're all looking at each other, you know, like, are you gonna try that out? Or, you know, "Whoo," or, they're just like pretty shy at some things, right? Not everybody. And, but to see in the kinder friends, you know, when you start doing the whee around them, then they just like picking it up. I mean, they're just like, And so there's a song in there. I didn't have to teach them how to do it. I just did it a number of times around them in a meditative kind of space so that they're able to, you know, to sing it. Juneau, 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 Juneau. City, hey, hey, ha, ho, hey, hey, yow, hey, hey, ha, ho, hey, hey, yow, hey, hey, ha, ho, hey, 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 yow, hey. And those kids can throw their breath into it right away. 1st graders now, they just can just rock into it. And so that's part of learning your own power, our community power. Yeah.
And I thank you, Rico, for sharing that this is a commitment that George has left Soldotna, and we are hoping he has made a commitment to stay with these kids until they're 5th graders, to see whether or not that openness remains, right? And so we're hoping that we can continue to fund this position and also consider it as a potential pilot for other schools to have a Tlingit language teacher at every elementary school, so that we're learning the language at an age where they can be fluent, right? When we start teaching at the middle school, you know, as we know, learning a 2nd language, it's much harder to be fluent at it. And to start at 5, 6, 7-year-olds, we're hoping that every child has access and equity to learning the language of this land and being fluent at it. So we're continuing. I have to say, Sealaska Corporation is the reason why George Holly is with us, and we're hoping to continue to have him here for several years to see this out and see what that difference can make, not only in the language, but in the openness of our children. So I want to say good speech to Sealaska Corporation and Sealaska Heritage Institute for all of their support and inspiration of that pebble that's just been continuing to make ripples throughout our community.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions in the audience? All right, well, thank you for joining us today, everyone. Thank you for wonderful presenters. Good luck, Jiyís.